Hello and welcome back to Karma Stories. I'm Rob and I hope you are having a wonderful day today. Today I have some stories for you from the Malicious Compliance subreddit. Now, as a lot of you know, my birthday was a couple of days ago. I turned 44 years old. Oh my gosh, I can't believe it. But I gotta show you something that one of my kids made for my birthday, and it's amazing. It's a chameleon. I love it. It's adorable. Isn't it great? It's so cute. Anyway, all right, let's get into today's stories. It's time to jump right in. This story comes to us from Relative Salad 1409. Daycare wants my office to park in our reserved spaces while they use ours too? We did. Been waiting for this one. My partner and I own a small 8-person company that shares a building with only a daycare. Our company consists almost exclusively of higher level professionals, a couple lawyers, CPAs, etc. So most have their own large office, plus a couple of common areas, conference rooms, a nice kitchen. All in all, it's about 3,500 square feet, which is obviously a lot for 8 people, but necessary for our line of work. Due to the size of the office, the lease has a parking provision which grants us exclusive rights to all 24 parking spots. This is somewhat important. To the story, not our work, we only need 8 plus clients. Also important is the daycare's parking lot, only consisting of about 10 spots in front of the building. The parents would use our lot to drop off, as the daycare's lot would be mostly full with their staff's cars, and even some of their staff would park in our lot. I didn't mind at all. We had over a dozen empty spots each day, and it was nice to have the mostly happy children around in the morning and afternoon. Until a month ago. I started coming in a bit later at the same time as daycare drop-off. Our lot was crazy with parents and kids walking and parking. So I used their lot like they have done with ours for years. First day, no issue. Second day, the manager saw me get out and gave me a piercing stare. A week or so later, I did it again and my car was towed. Not a warning or word from the manager or anyone at the daycare to me or our office. I went to the daycare to ask if they knew it was my car. It was a very distinctive old blue truck, and if some kind of mistake had been made. The manager came out and said it was not a mistake, and in a very rude, demeaning tone, her exact words were along the lines of, "Unfortunately, we can't have the liability of non-staff and parents within our lot, and I'm sure the parents don't appreciate having to walk further either, or an unknown adult like you in the lot." She looks me up and down, and I'm a totally normal looking 30-year-old male, at least I think. "Don't you have some reserved spots in the back? You should really park there and let us park here." With an eye roll, she walked off. I was happy I held my tongue in front of the children, considering how effing angry I was, knowing it was not the time for that conversation. A couple days later, I told the manager while we were outside at the office that I wish she would have come to me before towing my car and costing me $600, asked for an apology, and said since we share the back lot and the parents take up almost all of our spots in the morning and afternoon, can I park in the front lot on the occasional morning the timelines align? She flatly said no, and basically gave me the same speech she gave last time, at least not commenting on my appearance this time. I left things for a week, thinking it was over, until again, I had nowhere to park one morning, having to wait 10 minutes for parents to filter out of our lot lest my car be towed. And who do I see but the manager getting a spot in my lot before me even. I decided to comply with the manager's wishes and then developed a plan. I contacted the building owner and said, or more accurately lied, that due to compliance reasons with a state license we are applying for, we need to have a gate installed with employee and guest pass access only on our parking lot. Our company would of course cover the cost. Same day approval from the landlord, installed 2 weeks later. I drove in early that first day after install. I tell you, the mayhem was well worth it. Watching from the corner window gave me a perfect view of it all. It started with daycare staff pressing all sorts of keys on the gate to try to get in, trying to park where they have for months, years even. Then their lot filled up completely. Parents started arriving. A staff member had to stand at the gate, telling parents there was now no access. Their parking lot was basically congested with parents double parked taking their children in. Other parents parked a quarter mile down in another lot at the park our office overlooks. I eventually went down to give the manager a nice little wave and walked back up to my office. She gave me a piercing stare that just made me grin ear to ear. I guess she sent the owner a rather angry email about parking rights to the back lot afterwards and how it's crazy one small office gets the entire thing. Apparently, she did not know we had all of it. He said him and I may have to discuss the parking provision in the future, and he also did not know the lease gave the entire back lot, but it's not a big deal to him. Not sure why he let me put the gate in. Regardless, I still have 2 years left on my lease with another option to extend an additional 5. So no plans on moving anytime soon from the office or my 24 parking spots. P.S. It's an office building next to a park and residential homes. I am in no way endangering these children since they now walk through a quarter mile of grass and playground to get to daycare. It's not even a street to cross from that lot. If anything, I made the days of the employees and parents better in retrospect. Actually not sure the employees can park in the playground lot for that long. OP added an edit down at the bottom. It says, edit, to everyone asking me why I did not tow. 2 reasons. 1, most importantly, I was tired and working 12+ hour days for a few months at that point. That day she parked there was the last or second to last day of that stretch. And then I'm basically 4 to 6 hours a day for 9 months. Towing a car was the last thing on my mind. Getting into the office and finishing my work was my only goal. Then my partner suggested it when I recounted the story. 2, $600 can be a lot of money for some. I grew up fairly poor and know how devastating a towed car can mean to a family struggling month to month. Another day, I may have done it. I'm glad I didn't. Jumping down to the comments on this one, we have one from a user called Cramerica. It says, it's absolutely flabbergasting that people would rather treat a stranger like a complete piece of crap rather than just talk to them in a normal, non-aggressive, non-confrontational way. It literally costs nothing to just, at minimum, have 1 to 2 conversations and feel people out before you make a decision on how future interactions should be handled. People like that deserve every single inconvenience possible. OP responded to this one and said, it's shocking, honestly. Happens far too often with opposing counsel's clients, or even opposing counsel who cannot remain civil. So luckily, I basically deal with uncivil buttholes for a living. Easy to deal with a situation like this in normal life with nothing at risk. Another commenter down below called Coder Joe 1 said, time to lease them some of your parking spots for $10 a day until you pay off the cost of the gate and getting your car towed. OP responded and said, I don't care about the money, I care about the inconvenience of the manager. Unfortunately, there is great collateral damage with the parents and staff's convenience too. Sacrifices must be made in this great petty war. If OP needed to explain this one any further to the manager of that daycare, they could literally just tell them, unfortunately, we can't have the liability of non-staff and children within our lot. It's basically throwing their words right back at them and making them realize just how much of a moron they actually are. I love the fact that they were out there pressing random buttons on this gate trying to get in, like that was actually going to do something. I can imagine OP and the other people that work in OP's office watching out the window while that was happening and just having a good laugh at it while holding on and sipping some coffee. This story comes to us from Viking ZX, the endless cleaning loop. So this happened while I was working at a convention center that was not a good place to work. They sucked. Manglement was absolutely poster boy MBA idiocy 99% of time, and that other 1% was trying to figure out how to make it 100%. For example, they hired a security guy to keep homeless folks from crashing on our couches, then tried to fire him when the homeless problem just went away. Yeah, this type of genius. The type that thinks everyone not in an office with an MBA is below them. Something they made clear abundantly. Even as they constantly failed to figure things out like, you can't stick 12 10-foot tables in a row that's 100 feet long. Yes, the application let you make the room larger, but we lacked that space-time bending technology. Anyway, they were the type of people who believed that the menial peons of lesser departments should never be relaxing. Work for the purpose of pointless work. Getting a job done better or faster just meant getting penalized. So one day, about 6 months before COVID, they hand down this new rule. Our job was setting up and taking down sets, as well as cleaning, both for events and in general. They let the janitorial staff go and folded those jobs into our department to save cash. Well, they decided that there are 2 new rules that we need to follow. 1, always be cleaning. We are to clean on a loop endlessly, even on floors that aren't used in that day, so that the customers can see how busy we are keeping things nice. We did the loop and no one's come in, do it again. Top to bottom. You should never be off your feet, you lazy peons. So lazy. 2, we were no longer allowed to leave cleaning materials, carts, vacuums, etc. anywhere but their assigned location, which was now a back room on a bottom floor. If anyone asks you to do anything, you have to go put all that back. No exceptions. We pointed out this was stupid, but we're just laughable idiots who couldn't get a business degree. What do we know about work? Ha! So we complied, and suddenly everything was late. Get a call to get some chairs? Well, I was cleaning unused tables on another floor. I have to pack everything up, put it away on the slow elevator, then I can go do that. Even if a customer asked me. Suddenly we're getting complaints that everything takes too long. Mangleman even protested a few times. What were you doing on that floor? Cleaning, like you told us to. Did they learn? No. In fact, a few months later, they took away the break room. We could still have breaks, it was the law. It just wasn't supposed to be in the building, to prevent laziness. Meanwhile, we were still endlessly looping on cleaning, then taking 5 or so minutes to pack up every time we had to do something. Then another 5 minutes to unpack and get back. Sometimes several times in a few minutes, making 3 quick errands for an event take half an hour. They didn't learn, but we complied, much to the complaint of everyone. Then COVID hit, they took the PPP loan and fired everyone. Jumping down to the comments on this one, we have one from a user called Stepped in Hairball. It says, just a thought about having an MBA. It just means you can pass the test. Compared to my engineering undergrad, the MBA was stupid easy. I remember one class where this HR lady, executive program, so worked full-time and took classes, was complaining about how difficult the homework assignment was. She said she spent over 12 hours on it. I was dumbfounded by her. I did the homework in 30 minutes while sitting at my desk, eating my lunch, and checking ESPN on my workstation. Moral of the story, you can have an MBA and still be a complete effing idiot. Oh, come on. We all know what the MBA stands for. It is mediocre, but arrogant. It's unfortunate that this story didn't have a good resolution for OP and they had to move on to something else. They said in another comment that finances aren't great, but they're glad they're just not there anymore. That PPP loan went to all those higher-ups who said, we are the essential employees, and they fired everybody else. That happened a lot, unfortunately. This story comes to us from Public13608, Kevin versus the team. I have just found this subreddit and realized I have to tell you about the biggest plonker I've ever met. Around 15 years ago, I worked on a sales team and we got a new manager, Kevin. No one warmed to him. From day one, he strutted in like the second coming of Wolf on Wall Street, minus the charisma. He couldn't go 10 minutes without reminding us how incredible he'd been at his last company. Apparently, he smashed targets, broke records, and worked his way up the ladder faster than anyone in history. If his mouth had a Fitbit, it would have hit 10K brags before lunch. The man didn't stop talking about himself and made no effort to get to know us, the team. At his first sales meeting, he opened with a monologue about his greatness that could have qualified as a TED Talk titled, Why I Am Brilliant and You're Not. He then laid into us about our sales figures. We were over target, but according to him, we weren't aiming high enough. We were a pretty nice and upbeat company, so there were lots of raised eyebrows and WTF shared looks. Like, how do you bullock a team who are always over target? Then he was so full of himself, he actually said, I could hit that target on my own. So if you lot can't smash it as a team, something's seriously wrong. One of my bolder colleagues said, wow, what a fun and educational idea. Let's make it a competition, you versus the whole team. Everyone clapped and shouted a heck yeah. Then, as if fate itself wanted to join in the fun, our director heard the commotion and walked in. My colleague announced, Kevin's going up against the team this month. to keep us motivated and show us how it's done. The director agreed it was a great idea. The first week of Kevin versus the entire sales team was like watching a live-action version of David and Goliath if Goliath was a middle manager with anger issues and David was literally everyone else. Kevin strutted in on Monday like he was about to deliver a masterclass, but didn't achieve a single sale, or the next day, or the next several after that. Meanwhile, the team was having the time of our lives. Even our new starter, Jonathan, a sweet nervous lad who had never done sales before, was outselling Kevin by week 2. Every time Jonathan made a sale, the office would erupt like he'd scored in the World Cup. By the third day, Kevin had entered what we'll call his tantrum era. Phones were slammed, headsets were thrown. At one point, he even dramatically announced, "This system is rigged." Kevin didn't make it until the end of the month. He left because he was pursuing other opportunities, which we all understood to mean fired for being spectacularly bad. My colleague was right though. It was so fun and very educational. In our mutual hatred for Kevin, we worked harder than ever and smashed all previous sales records in company history, which felt extra satisfying being as this was Kevin's main brag. I looked him up on LinkedIn recently, and his bio reads, "World-class sales director, open to new opportunities," which I think probably means unemployed for being spectacularly bad and still full of himself. So it seems he didn't learn much at all. Jumping down to the comments on this one, we have one from a user called TailXBatReddit. It says, "Director's wife, you seem to be in a good mood tonight." Director says, "The sales team is going up against that new chap I hired to lead them. It's going to be hilarious, and whatever happens, we're going to make bank." You know, this comment made me think about this story in a completely different way. What if this guy was brought in just to motivate the team by being a gigantic douche that would lead them into this sales competition and make them sell a whole bunch more stuff? Like, this guy could go from company to company saying, "I'm going to go in there, I'm going to be a giant butthole, but your team is going to come out of this making more money than they have ever made." Now that would be an interesting spin on what this guy is doing. This story comes to us from Working Patience 261. Use slow computer for demanding project. I got voluntold for the job of switching a paper-based corporate learning to computer-based, including web-based training. I did not have a desk or a computer, so I brought in my personal laptop. The boss objected and stated, "I need to write a business case for a computer." A week later, I got the absolute minimum system that met the minimum requirements on the box. I started the painful process of converting a PowerPoint into an Adobe Captivate file. When it came time to compile the first file, the computer stated it would be 3 hours before it finished. Maybe. So I headed to the break room. The executive director for the project happened to walk in and ask me what I was doing there. I'm staying not frustrated while waiting for the first draft to compile. Should be about another 2 hours, sir. It was 5 hours. When I showed up the next day, my computer had been upgraded to the then top model with dual monitors. The next day, my fancy unit was on the boss's desk, and I had his even older, slower computer. This time compiling was over 10 hours. Back to the break room. Same executive walks in, I just smile, nod, and go back to my lunch. The next day, I had 2 computers on my desk, the still compiling boss's unit, and my previously issued fancy one. The boss was cleaning out his desk, having been sent back to frontline, non-boss work. I felt so good to give that company the boot once that project was completed. Jumping down to the comments on this one, we have one from a user called Ethereal Esoterica. It says, "Never underestimate the power of just being quiet. You'd be amazed how strong it can be, laugh out loud." It sounds like OP was actually working for a good company with a great executive team who understood what OP needed. It was just one manager that was an absolute craphead, and honestly, they got their karma pretty quickly. So OP, yeah, sitting back and being quiet, you got exactly what you wanted, and the manager got their just desserts. Alright, I think we'll end this one here. If you enjoyed this episode, make sure to follow us on your preferred podcasting platform. If you're on YouTube, please drop a like on the video and hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. It really does help us out. I thank you all for watching and listening. I hope you have a wonderful day, and we'll see you tomorrow.